I fucking knew you were gonna say that. That's so funny.
We're gonna spice it up a little bit.
That's a great question. I've never been asked that before.
Perfect. I thought you weren't gonna be good at it, man. What happened?
Creative things and business things moved at different paces, and I think that's what I've really learned to value as an independent artist.
You're out there rocking everyone else's world. I'm like, so it's my turn to rock your world. Welcome to Unshut, a place where if at any point you feel like you need to shut the up, don't.
Can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear
No.
me?
Sick. Is it coming through this mic?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, okay, that should be good.
Perfect. Well, listen, I'm glad I got to redo that because my voice cracked.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good. I said, I'm glad we got to redo that because as soon as you jumped on the call, I said hi and my voice cracked, so I get to redo
Yeah, there you go.
it. How's your morning going?
It's going great. How are you?
Doing pretty good. It's a pretty chill day, fighting a cold. So if you see me wipe my nose, it's just a runny
Oh yeah,
nose.
okay. Okay, good to know. Thank you. Thank you for the disclaimer. Yeah. Am I loud enough through the mic?
Yeah, it sounds great.
Okay, cool, cool, cool. I'm like still learning how to use this. I'm not good at like the mic. Like I'm just not good with technology, so I'm always like worried it's like I'm talking into the wrong side or some shit, but yeah.
No, it sounds
Cool.
good. When you move away from it, it does fade out a little bit, but once you're
Okay.
in it, it does sound clear and crisp. So
Cool. I'll try to stay on it like this. Cool.
amazing. Well, first of all, thank you so much for being here. I'm not going to lie, I was getting a little bit of like imposter syndrome looking up some of your interviews and other shows you've done. And so that really prompted me to start the interview with this question. How do you deal with the pressure of knowing you are now in a position that you're in today? You're out here giving chances to people like me to do an interview with you when before you were the one looking out for chances yourself, if that makes sense.
Oh, sure. Honestly, I don't even think about it in that way. I just like having conversations with people about music, to be honest. And it's like, there's so many people that just because somebody might have a big following doesn't even necessarily mean, that they're doing it for the best reasons or the right reasons. Like some are, some aren't. So I don't even, to be honest, I don't even think about it. I just like talking about music with people. And I think in the past I've been a little not reluctant, but I mean, I think still there is some level of like I'm pretty reserved as far as I love talking about music, but I don't necessarily love talking about myself. So it's something that trying to get used to just in general as far as like press stuff goes. But yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it. Looking forward to the conversation. I'm just yeah, it's all good.
No, for sure. Well, I mean, I think that's the best part about these conversations. Like you said, we jump right into them. And I know for me personally, like, don't get me wrong, like I'm definitely very confident in what I do. And I know that I bring something to the table that no one out there is doing at the moment, at least not that I've seen, with the way I give questions a twist and shit like that, you know. So I'm secure, but I do think that it's funny how unless you're throwing yourself out there into, exposing your art, your craft, your creativity, you really don't know what imposter syndrome really is until you're actually doing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 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 I feel you. I appreciate you having me on. It'll be fun.
No, for sure. And, speaking of things that are unlike anything out there, we are going to talk about some things I know for sure you've never talked on record. So you're going to have to be quick on your toes. We're going to let our creative juices do some flowing, and I'm super excited.
All right, cool. Looking forward to it, Mo. Yeah, thank you.
No, of course. It's so funny too because I journaled on here. I'm like, with some of these artists that I have on, you've been doing this for a long time. And so it really is a challenge for me because I'm like, you're out there rocking everyone else's world. I'm like, so it's my turn to rock your world.
Yeah, thank you, man. Yeah, no, looking forward to it. I think to be honest, I think a lot of people appreciate that because so often and it's normal, but coming on and being asked when sometimes it's just about how did the band start? How'd you get your band name? What is this song about? Those are great things that I love giving insight to, of course, but I think there is a lot of value put on, maybe talking about music, but it doesn't have to be so, formal. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't it's an interview, but it doesn't feel like I have to be like I'm being interviewed about my job, about what I do, but my work. But cool, let's jump in.
Well, listen, I couldn't segue any better. So, in honor of the band name Grayscale, and if I'm not mistaken, you had talked about in a previous interview about how you met one of your bandmates on Craigslist. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct. Nick, our drummer, and I have been best friends since we were like, I think I was 13 and he was 14. But that initially happened because I was looking for a drummer and posted an ad when I was 13, which looking back is kind of crazy. and probably kind of dangerous. And that's how it's funny to put the word dangerous with Nick because he's like the kindest person and the least. But yeah, that is accurate. You're not wrong.
Well, in honor of that scenario, okay, we're going to break the ice this way. And this is how we're jumping into shit today, Colin, all right? I'm going to
Okay.
give you a different scenario in regards to a different app or website that you would have met Nick and what that band name would be. Are you ready?
Okay.
So the first thing that comes to mind, just shoot the shit with me. Here we go. What would the band name be if you had met Nick on MySpace?
Mm, to be honest with you, I don't remember that much about MySpace. I remember having you'd be able to kind of tag on your profile the your favorite song, and I think Third Eye Blind is always consistently one of my favorite artists. So I'm especially during that time as well, growing up. So I think I don't know if the band name I don't know if the band name would be affected. Sorry, I don't know if the band name would be different with per if the platforms changed. That's tough. I don't know if that would have changed anything, but I think maybe that would have been an insight because I don't think I spoke to him a ton on his influences and stuff until we met in person. It was just like come jam and let's see what's up. So maybe MySpace having that feature of you selecting you posting like your favorite music. What I can't remember what it was called. That might have given away a little bit of our influences. I think that'd be the only difference, probably.
All right, well, you definitely gave me one. I think a
Okay.
band name, if you guys would have met on MySpace, would have been your favorite song.
Oh, there you go. That's good. That's a way better answer than mine, for sure.
No,
Nice.
not at all. I'm telling you, this is part of the show, all right? I like to catch you
Okay,
off
okay.
guard because it really does. It's really going to start to set the tone on how people are going to see how the artist thinks quick on their toes, right? It's about a little bit of improvising. We don't prep for the interviews, so
Right.
hopefully I don't scare you off.
No, it's all right. I got to be more creative in my answers because that wasn't such a good one. But yeah, I'm with it. Let's keep going. We'll try.
No, not at all. It was perfect because this is what inspiration's all about. When you can't come up with something, I got you, all right?
There you go. Great.
All right, first thing that comes to mind, band name, if you would have met Nick on Tinder, go.
Hot and spicy. That'd be the name.
Perfect. I thought you weren't going to be good at it, man. What happened?
That's funny, man.
All right, so the last one I have for you, we're not going to stay on this topic too long again. It's just to kind of break you in, all right? But the third one I have for you is if you and Nick would have met on Grinder.
I fucking knew you were gonna say that. That's so funny. It'd be the same one. It would be hot. It would be hot and spicy too. It'd be the same name, just number two. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
couldn't have got any better. That's
That's great.
amazing.
Yeah, I love that. Hotter and spicier. That's what it would have been actually. Yeah.
There you go. Exactly.
Nicky's a good looking boy. I meet him on Grindr. That's good. That's great.
That's perfect. In a previous interview, you talked about schooling your bandmates on the efficiency of idle time. Like literally, I think you talked about like, you were giving them a course on like time management and all that good shit, okay? So in honor of that conversation, this is going to be Walsh Academy for the Sloths. Are you ready?
Okay. This makes me sound like such an asshole, but okay, yeah, go for it.
Not at all. The show was hilarious. What would Coach Colin train us at the Walsh Academy for the Sloths? In speed walking or striding?
Speed walking, I would, well, and it's not even, I'm just a super impatient person, and like Andrew and Nick are extremely patient people. Dallas, our guitarist, is sort of, he's pretty impatient. He's like me. But I think it's so much of, and I don't know the context of what that was pulled from, but it probably was more in the context of when we're on tour and say, for example, we're in the morning, we're like, hey, we want to go walk and get coffee, like off the bus or the van, whatever. And like different people are just operating at their own pace in the morning. I think the pace at which people operate in the morning on their own is so different and is so different internally among the band. So yeah, I'm sure I was probably being an asshole about that among other things that I can be an asshole about. But I think speed walking for sure. I lived in Philly, like I lived downtown for quite a bit of my life, and so much of that city walk is definitely something that I'm used to. And I got long legs, so I definitely can stride it out pretty good.
Well, just for context, in that interview, I believe you were in Austin having like Dunkin' Donuts or something, and you did not come across as an asshole. I literally
Okay.
laughed about this because I thought, damn, it's very relatable to a lot of artistic people out there whose mind is always going.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
for sure.
so definitely, just to give context, you weren't an asshole. But
Okay, great. That's great to know.
Of course, we're going to spice it up a little bit one last time
Yeah.
before we get into a little bit more of some serious topics to again ask you things you've never been asked about. Are you ready for the last one?
Yeah, let's do it.
In Walsh Academy for the Slavs, would Professor Collin prefer a quickie with his coworker, not a student, because we don't condone that shit on the show? Would he have a quickie in the break room or a football field after hours?
Uh, damn, I don't even, that's tough. I don't even know how to answer that, but I will answer it in this. I love football. I love watching football. So I think my actual answer would be instead of anything sexual, I would go and I would just watch football practice because I am obsessed with college football. There's my PG answer. How's that?
Perfect. PG is
Okay.
totally fine. In regards to something you just talked about when it comes to football, is football something that's very nostalgic to you or very new? Is this something you just recently got into?
Oh no, I've loved football. I played football since I was 4 or 5 years old. I played it my entire life. Had like a pretty serious neck injury in like high school, so I had to stop playing. I ended up stopping somewhere in my in high school, and I still play lacrosse and other sports, but I was never big enough to like keep playing. I would get my ass kicked, but I love playing it. Very important to me. I think it just growing up, it was just a huge part of my family. My brother played football as well. My dad coached some of our teams. I love watching it. I love the team aspect of it, the character aspect of it, like the competitive part of it. I love the strategy and the play calling. Like, it's definitely something that I've always been very passionate about. And not just this sounds so I don't know what the word is. It's but not just watching only the Eagles play on the on Sundays or whatever, but more so really being in love with a lot of the game, like truly the ins and outs of it as somebody who played it, as somebody who really understands and loves the schematics of it. So yeah, it's definitely not a new thing. It's something that's I think is a really integral part of my life growing up before I became a musician.
Do you think without that neck injury, you still would have crossed paths with music?
That's a great question. Never been asked. So I had already started playing drums. I had been playing drums and taking lessons for since I was 8. Um, and my answer to that is yes. I would have. I still was already kind of crossed paths with music. I was still doing it actively, but I think there was a time where it gave me sort of a shift, focusing less as an athlete and more on music. So that's a great question. I've never been asked that before, but I do think that being banged up playing football pushed me even further into music. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think I'm definitely getting ready to also showcase how bipolar the show is because we go from talking some of the craziest random shit, and then we slowly start to kind of get into a little bit of more serious topics. But there's a method to my madness, and a lot of it also has to do with I like to start off the interview with making my guests feel like, what the fuck did I get myself into? But then also, it's just a really good way to not get you to overthink the beautiful answers that are going to come later, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Cool.
So,
Totally.
so now that we're kind of, talking about your childhood and, this part of your life, something that you have been very open about is your relationship with your mom. And it's definitely something I don't want to touch on too much because, in my opinion, you've done a beautiful job at writing about it. And I definitely want to encourage listeners to go listen to, that music after this episode for them to kind of explore, those situations and that writing on their own. But something that prompted me to ask you is in regards to the writing of it, has it ever crossed your mind to think, what if the roles were reversed in every aspect, what your mom would have titled a track about you, given the fact that you titled this Mum, something you call her, if that makes any sense?
Yeah. That's so interesting. Um, I don't know what she'd title it, but something I've learned uh, through the process of this evolving sort of subplot in Grayscale's work, lyrically speaking, that is super personal to me. Every album, every album has some direct or indirect um, reference to the relationship with my mom and how it's evolved and devolved and evolved again and all of that. I think something I've learned is that, yeah, I am, we have a lot more love for each other than I ever thought that we did. And I'm loved much more, not that I didn't think I was loved before, but I think our relationship now through the turmoil is better than it ever had been and better than I ever thought it could be. So I don't know what she titled things, but I do know that her and I both have reached this place of unconditional gratefulness and love for one another. And I think in so many ways for so long I wish my relationship with my mother was better, but I wouldn't trade it for the world what it is now because it has this beautiful absolute open vulnerability um that nobody really has, not very often at all, if at all, that I've come across with their mom, because we've been through so much that it took any kind of filter, any kind of ego or filter or anything, and threw it out the window. And now it's just two people um that love each other, speaking so honestly, and she's like the funniest fucking person ever in her own way, and I'm very thankful and grateful for it. Thank you for asking me that. That was a really good way to ask that.
No, for
Yeah.
sure. And I think that's the beautiful part about your writing is that the reason why I wanted to have you on was because your writing, in my opinion, it really did make me feel like all the perspectives that you guys write about and sing about, you know how sometimes people make people's struggles and challenges, they're like a pissing contest. But with your
Yeah.
guys' music, I felt like it wasn't a pissing contest. It was very much so of saying, listen, these are my struggles, but we can all relate to the struggling aspect of it. And I thought that that conveying of those messages were done so beautifully, which is why, I didn't really want to deep dive into the topic, but kind of give you a twist on looking at it from a different perspective, you know?
Yeah, totally. And so well said on your part. And I think that's so much of what so much of how I feel about it as well. That I'm not the point of me. So much of it is just me expressing how I feel. And I think part of that, especially as of recent, so much of it is a reflection and gratefulness and acknowledgement of the healing and the growth of it. Yeah, I never feel compelled to write something intentionally sad or intentionally edgy or whatever. It's just my only real guidelines are, it has to be actively open and honest and vulnerable, and that's something that will always continue to challenge myself with as a writer, and that's how the greats do it and the people that I look up to do it. And on that topic with my mom specifically, that's definitely, you know, I, if I'm gonna talk about the hard parts of it, the face value difficult parts of it in the beginning, then I certainly owe it to myself and her and the art and the rest of it to tell the good parts and the real parts, not just it was sad, now it's happy, but to your point, it's the things in between where it doesn't need to be this, it doesn't need to, there's healing and acknowledgement of people at fault and the human parts of it. And I think that was something that it took me a long time to come around to that, but I'm very thankful that I did, and I'm proud of it. I'm proud of the whole thing.
No, you definitely should be. And I feel like that's also the reason why your music touches so many people because you're obviously singing from a place of emotion that's very vulnerable. And this also prompted me to write down a question that I don't think I've ever heard you talk about. But when it comes to someone else writing with you, is there a song, Colin, that you can think that maybe you didn't write on primarily? It was written from someone else's perspective that you were able to sympathize and feel it because of that perspective being so touching, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, totally. And you're talking about grayscale songs, right? Like demos we've written type thing.
Yeah.
There's a song that we never released called Evelyn that our guitarist Dallas wrote about some of his struggles. And I think someday it will come out. So I don't want to give too much away of what it is, but he actually wrote it with John from the Maine, who's a close friend of ours. Those two wrote it together. And it's beautiful and it's so well written. And it was something I was so inspired by hearing it. Equal parts of me wanting to add to it and try to, knowing what it's about, enhance it and whatever. But then also parts of me listening to it and being like, this is so well said from your perspective, Dallas. And I think it deserves to be on a Grayscale record eventually, when the right time comes. So that would be by far the first thing that I think of when that question comes. Yeah.
No, that's amazing. Now I'm glad I asked that because I was really thinking how, especially you being the front man, you're always praised on how you convey your lyrics, your writing with your singing so beautifully. So I love that. Hopefully Evelyn does make it to the public. I think that's beautiful.
I think it will at some point. Yeah. No, thank you.
And it's so crazy how this sometimes happens to me, but I rock with questions that come to my head and then the alignment's just there. And now you touched on something that's unreleased. And my next question happens to be about this live performance that you posted on Instagram. You guys were performing the song Live Again. If you could take a song that you have in your catalog, completely strip it from its original chords, and maybe give it like this big choir orchestra arrangement in the background. Does one in particular come to mind? Do you know what performance I'm even talking about to start?
I don't. Um, I can't think of it. You said, was it a stripped type of performance, like where we didn't have things?
I believe it was like a live performance. It was maybe for like, I know the Lakers were involved or something. It was from like this.
Oh, well, we
Yes.
performed the song live. So the song has a choir on it, the studio version, and we played in LA, and we're close friends with the director of this organization called Compton Kids Club, and it's a singing and performance organization in Compton, California, and it's these kids and the people involved are all incredible. And I think what you might be referring to was actually the sound check that we did with them, that then we eventually performed live at that show in LA. And yeah, they're amazing. And that song, I think that's the right kind of song. The sentiment of it's a song about my dad and him being ill, having choirs and stuff. Felt right from a compositional standpoint to have that. And to answer your question, there's a song on our new record, The Hart, that comes out in January of next, like January 31st. And there's a song on it called Talking in My Sleep that I think would be my answer to you as far as what I could. The way it's arranged is perfect for the song as is, but I think that would be one that I'd be interested to see if we stripped it to the studs and built it up again with like a choir being an active part of it. That would be one for sure.
Very cool. And so before we even jump to this new album, because that's what we're going to talk about next, the last thing I have for you that's completely, totally random, and this literally
Yeah.
just now popped into my head, something that you have talked about in a couple of interviews, you've talked about how you were maybe kind of late to the party with some older artist, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. But I also thought it was really funny that in those conversations, I don't remember you ever really talking about, in Colin's opinion, in 2025 is up and coming. Basically, you're ahead of it, if that makes sense.
Sure. Um, there's a band called Wonder Horse that I loved. That like this British rock band. They're fucking awesome. Um, and I feel last year, even the year before, like I had been listening to their stuff for quite a bit and felt really strongly about how great it was. And then they recently announced a bunch of like big tours with other bands that I really love, like Fontaine's DC and some other bands like that. And um, yeah, I would say Wonder Horse was one that I sort of felt early on for the most part. Yeah, it's a good question.
Very cool. I just, I thought it was clever because you're always talking about all the ones you missed. So I'm
Yeah,
like,
of
I wonder
course.
which one he's, ahead of the curve with.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That would be one. That's a great question.
For sure. In regards to this new album coming out January 31st, you're releasing it completely independently. I want to talk about that real quick. Is there a particular step you may have underestimated, but now completely happy with everything you learned from it, given the fact that you guys are dropping this as independent artists right now?
It's a good question. Yes and no. I feel like we've always been very vested. We've always been had our hands really deep in everything. So I think the learning curve was a little bit less steep just because we were very closely, handling a lot of the operation as far as the front facing and back facing things for the band. Um, I think we knew it would be challenging. I think it is challenging, but we've had a lot of really great guidance from friends like The Main and Our Last Night and bands that have been doing this themselves for a long time. And I think it was something that we're very fortunate to be able to do on our own terms. And and we're very, very thankful for that. We're in a very like very blessed to be in that position, and I don't feel we were ill prepared for anything. I think we knew what we were getting into. We were fortunate in that we had the right resources and questions and people to connect with to ask, and I'm really proud of what we've done. So, yeah.
That's amazing. With all the different moving parts that come with doing something like this independently, is there a step that you can think of, Colin, that in your opinion, you're not afraid to admit, hey, that's something in the future I'll take a backseat on because not necessarily you weren't good at it, right? But I think sometimes letting go of control is the best way to have control. Is there anything in particular with all the moving parts going into this project that you can think in the future, I'll take a backseat on that?
Um, I don't know, man. I'm pretty hands on and some to some degree pretty controlling, to be honest. So I don't really think so, and I don't think I think it's just like everybody in our band works hard. Our team, our manager, our booking agent, everybody works really hard. I think there's sometimes I'll check on things just for peace of mind, and 99% of the time, our wonderful manager or wonderful booking agent are already they're like, hey, that's already handled. It's been handled. Don't worry. And that's definitely been something I've have to continue to get better at. Trusting in general. But yeah, that's kind of my only thing, to be honest with you.
For sure. It's for anyone that's listening who's doing independent work, would you truly, honestly say you would do it all over again?
What do you mean things I would do differently?
Just in general, doing this completely independently.
Oh, I mean this is our first release that's independent, but I don't I think it's everybody's position is totally different as art what your needs and wants are and all of those things and your position and things and whatever, but it's been amazing for us. It's been wonderful. It's been amazing to be able to I think for me the value is when we want to push things and make them go faster, we can do that. And when we want to go slow, we can take our time. That's the most valuable thing to me. And that's because creative things and business things moved at different paces. And I think that's what I've really learned to value as an independent artist.
No, I think that's like some of the best perspective anyone can
Yeah.
get. That's incredible. I love that.
Yeah. Thank you. I actually, unfortunately, have a heart out pretty soon. Sorry if we're able to wrap. Yeah.
No, for sure. For anyone that's listening, just go ahead and tell everyone where to find your music.
Yeah. You can listen to Grayscale anywhere that you stream music. Socials are at Grayscale PA. And we have our brand new record, The Hart, January 31st, 2025. Go stream it. Check it out. There's music videos for almost every song, and we got a lot of shit going on in 2025. And we got a big record release show this December, the 21st in Philadelphia that we're excited about.
Amazing. Well, good luck to you guys and, wish you guys all the best.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on.
Hey, if you've made it this far, don't forget to follow the socials on the screen or in the description below. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel. See you next week.